أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحابته المنتجبين. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله، صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. يا رحمة الله الواسعة، ويا باب نجاة الأمة، ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة، يا مظلوم يا شهيد يا غريب كربلاء. يا ليتنا يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ونريد أن نمن على الذين استضعفوا في الأرض ونجعلهم أئمة ونجعلهم الوارثين. استنال بعاشوراء. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The second for the love of Imams Al-Hassan wal-Hussein. A third for the love of Fatima al-Zahra with your loudest voices. The past decade, the United States of America witnessed lots of changes. Specifically, on September 11th of 2001, many changes took place here in America. Some predicted that September 11th will be the end of Islam in America. And it will be the end for all Muslims in America. Islam will no longer be accepted, and Muslims will no longer be welcomed in this country. Many predicted such changes. Some were fearful that our Islamic centers here in America will be in danger, our families will be in danger, our jobs will be in danger. And some even promoted this idea then we Muslims can no longer stay in this country. There were others that promoted that Islam does not belong in America, and Muslims need to go back to their own countries. This is not their country, because they have caused a catastrophe in this country. They need to go back and leave America for Americans. However, now that more than a decade has passed after September 11th, we see that none of this took place. Islam remained accepted in America. Muslims remained welcome in America. In fact, we see that the number of converts to Islam after 9/11 increased. The number of Muslims in America increased after 9/11. The number of Islamic centers and mosques in America doubled after 9/11. Churches, synagogues, temples, colleges, universities, they all opened their doors for Muslim scholars to come and address large audiences regarding Islam, regarding the teachings of Islam. After 9/11, numerous books and pamphlets and publications were printed regarding Islam. People became more aware of Islam, of the true teachings of Islam, and that Islam is a peaceful religion. And Muslims remained comfortable in this country. No one lost their job, no one lost their home. Muslims lived their everyday life, their normal life. They went to school, they went to work, peacefully, comfortably. Yes, there were some hate crimes after 9/11. There were a few hate crimes here and there after 9/11. Some Muslims witnessed discrimination at airports, yes. Maybe some were even hurt, physically hurt after 9/11. Some people here and there. Yes, there were a few movies that were made against Islam here in this country. However, the general aspect, the general perspective of Islam and Muslims remained peaceful. Muslims remained welcome in this country. Yes, there are some neoconservative politicians and preachers in this country that would like to see Islam eradicated. They would like to see Muslims leave America. Yes, there are some individuals. From among politicians, you have the infamous Daniel Pipes, you have Newt Gingrich, you have John McCain. These are all politicians that would like to see Muslims leave this country. From neoconservative preachers, you have people like Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell, Terry Jones. These would like to see Muslims leave this country. However, the general population, no, they are welcoming of Islam and Muslims. Americans are very much tolerant of Islam and Muslims. In fact, in this country, Muslims are seen as American just as Christians and Jews are. The same way that this country belongs to Jews and Christians and Buddhists and followers of other faiths, it too belongs to Muslims. About 10 days ago when I arrived from Karbala to New York, the customs officer stamped in my passport and he told me, "Welcome home." You rarely get this phrase when you go to your own countries. When I land in Iraq, I am not told "welcome home." But when I come to America, the customs officer tells me, "Welcome back home." For many of us, America has become a home. You see, my dear friends, your country is not the land where you're born in. Your country is the land that tolerates you and makes you feel welcome. That is your country. Thus, for us Muslim Americans, this is our country. We came here to live, and we came here to stay as our country. The past, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This was for the past decade, the past 10 years or 12 years. Now what about the next 10 years or 12 years? What will happen? How does the future of Islam look in America for the next decade, the next 12 years? Will it be as successful as the past 12 years? Will Islam have room here in America? Will Americans accept Islam and be welcoming of Muslims or not? Will the amount of converts in the next decade, will it be on the rise or will it recede? The amount of books and publications, will it increase or will it stop? Muslim involvement in politics, will it remain the same or will it increase? Will American Muslims have a say in policy making in this country or no? How do we see the next 12 years? Will we participate in politics and in policy making, or no, Muslims will remain the same? How does the next decade look for Islam and Muslims in this country? This is what we'd like to talk about tonight in the next couple of minutes. Of course, we cannot tell the future. No one has knowledge of the future. However, we can predict certain things according to the way things have gone for the past 10 years. We can predict a couple of things based on personal analysis of how we Muslims, where will we end up in the next 10 years? Wa sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I believe that in the next decade, Islam will flourish in this country. And Islam will succeed in this country. And so too will Muslims. They will increase by number. And it's not just quantity, but they will increase by quality as well. And we will see that Muslims will have a say in policy making as well. However, there are certain conditions to this predicament. There are certain conditions. If these conditions are not met, it will only remain a hypothesis. It will just remain a hypothesis. There will be certain conditions to be met in order for Muslims to succeed in this country and for Islam to flourish in this country. And these are the conditions that we'd like to talk about tonight, my dear friends. Specifically, I chose this topic for the night of Ashura. Why? Because Imam Hossein alayhi salam, my dear friends, died for a reason. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Imam Hussein died for a reason and for a cause. And that cause was not just for us to shed tears for the Imam. It wasn't just for us to cry. Crying is good. Crying is wonderful for the Imam and will be rewarded. However, these tears need to be translated into actions. What is the point if we sit in the majlis of Aba Abdullah and we shed our tears and then we go at home and we look at the state of Muslims and all we do is shake our heads and we say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. The Imam could have done this. The Imam could have remained in Medina when he heard that Yazid has come to power. He could have shaken his head like all the other significant individuals in Medina, like Abdullah ibn Umar and others. They shook their heads. They said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And they sat comfortably in their homes without taking action. But the Imam took action. The Imam sacrificed his life for Islam. On the Day of Judgment, when he meets us, he will say, what did you do for Islam? Your tears were not enough. I appreciate your tears. Thank you. But was that all? Imam Hussein alayhi salam wants us to translate our tears and sorrow and sadness into action. What have we done for Islam? will be asked. What have we done for Islam in this country? What have we done for Muslims in this country? Imam Hussein will ask us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. There are certain conditions, my dear friends. Certain conditions that have to be met in order for Islam and Muslims to be successful in this country. I ask my dear brothers to pull forward, to please come forward to make room for those who will come in a couple of minutes. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Another loud salawat, please. Number one, voting. We see, according to statistics, that the amount of Muslims that live in America, of course, depending on various statistics, there are some that say 2 million, others say 4 million, others say 5 million, and there are some statistics that say the amount of Muslims living in this country is up to 7 million. 7 million individuals, Muslim individuals living in the United States of America. However, during the times of elections, how many of them go and vote? Not many. A very small percentage of Muslims, maybe 10, 15, maximum 20% of Muslims that actually go and vote. Yes, things are becoming better. Muslims in this country, alhamdulillah, are becoming more aware, and they're realizing the importance and significance of voting, and they are going to vote. Yet still, we have not reached the stage of satisfactory. And what's interesting is that we Muslims, we complain that why don't politicians care about Islam? Why don't politicians cater to Muslims? Why don't politicians fight for the rights of Muslims in the Middle East? You know why? Because we don't vote. They could care less. If we actually voted, they would fear our vote. They would actually look for our vote. They would come and they would try to satisfy Muslims because they want their vote. But when a politician runs and he looks at who votes and who doesn't vote, and when he sees that Muslims do not vote, you think they care about Muslims? You think they care about their opinion when they don't vote for them? Voting is a power, my friends. It's a means of power. When we vote for a certain candidate, or when we show him that we could possibly vote and put him into office, then he'll start fearing you. Then he'll start catering to your needs. Then he'll start caring about your opinion and will start working for Muslim rights in the Middle East. When you don't vote, he could care less. He will go and cater to the needs of those who actually vote. Like our Jewish cousins here in America. Yes, they're our cousins, after all. Jews in America, they're not even half the size, half the population of Muslims. They're not even half. Some statistics say that Jews in America are up to 2 million. However, all politicians cater to their vote. They cater to their needs. They go and they visit the areas where they are heavily populated by Jews, like California and New York and Florida. They go to them, they visit them, they cater to their needs, they speak to them, they ask them for their opinion. Why? Because all Jews in the United States of America vote. They vote. But we Muslims don't vote. It's not part of our culture. It's not part of our system. We haven't understood the power of voting and the power of your vote, the power of your voice. The day that we realize how important voting is here in America, and all Muslims begin to vote, then we will have politicians come and visit us. They'll come visit our communities, our centers, and they'll tell us, what would you like for us to do for you? How can we serve you? This is one. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Number two, a very important topic that is very, very much neglected in our communities. What is it? Funding political candidates. Funding elections. You might think, what is this talking about? Funding politicians? Yes, that's right, funding politicians. When you fund a politician, when you fund his candidacy, when you fund his political campaign, that means he needs you. He needs you. When you fund a politician, he's in need of your money. That will get him to come to you. That will get him to come to your community, to your center, and ask, what is it that you need? Because he's in need of you. As the famous saying says, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. When we don't fund politicians and political campaigns, they say we don't need Muslims. When we run, we don't benefit for them. When we don't run, we don't benefit for them. Why cater to them? Why worry about their needs and desires? Why fight for the rights of Muslims in America or outside America when they don't even fund us? When we don't receive a single penny from them? While when we look at Jews in the United States of America, we see that most funding for almost every single politician that runs for presidency or the Senate or Congress or even the local offices, most of their funding comes from who? Comes from the Jews. Why? They do it for sabilillah. When they give, they're doing it for Allah, or because there's a reason, because there's a purpose. You think that politicians cater to Jews and they defend Israel, and for every bill that runs in Congress or Senate, these politicians have to sign on it if it's in the favor of Israel? You think that's for free? Or they paid? Because they pay for it. Because they pay for their political campaigns. But unfortunately, we Muslims, this is not part of our culture. We haven't understood the importance of financing political campaigns. For us, if we want to spend money, the biggest deal that we will spend on is food during the nights of Muharram. If we spend a couple of hundreds of dollars on food at the Islamic Center, we think we've done a great service to Islam. If we bought some food or bread. Of course, I don't mean to discourage those that have bringing food. Otherwise, we would have been starving the past couple of nights. And it's been delicious food. Please bring the food. But at the same time, let's realize that there's other priorities as well. The same way that we bring food and we build Islamic centers and we build Islamic schools, there are other priorities as well, such as funding, political campaigns. All it requires is some foresight. Some people might object to me and say, how do you expect us to give our money to these crooks? If this is how you want to see it, that's fine. But you can see it in another way. That these crooks will also fight for your rights if they realize that they need your money. How do you think that the Israel lobby works in this country? That the politicians, they cater to the Jews and to the Israeli lobby for free because they love them? Because they have a lot in common? No. A lot of these politicians, they even despised the Israeli lobby, but they need them. Why? Because it's the money. It's the money. The Israel lobby supports and finances the politicians who pass bills that favor Israel. And the moment that they see a politician not favoring Israel, the money stops. The finance stops. And that person will lose the next time that he runs for office. This is how it works. This is how the Israel lobby works. When is it that we will learn? When is it that we will change? When is it that we will realize that we have certain priorities? Our money is good to be spent on food and Islamic centers and charity and orphans. This is wonderful, but we should have other funds for other means as well. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Another very important point is civic engagement in the United States of America. The 7 million Muslims here in America, do you know how many people do we have representing us in Congress? How many men do we have representing us in Congress? We only have 2. We only have 2 congressmen fighting for my rights and your rights in Congress. While Jews in America, who are less than us by a lot, There are less than half of us, they have 50 members in Congress. Did you know this? And then we complain, why doesn't anyone fight for Islamic rights? Why doesn't anyone fight for our rights? If some company discriminates against a female Muslim because of her hijab, and she's kicked out and she loses her job, we complain, why isn't there anyone fighting for our rights? Who's fighting for our rights? Who? You expect 2 congressmen could fight for our rights? Just 2? A population of 7 million. We only have 2 soldiers out there. Who's fighting? While Jews have 50 soldiers fighting for them in Congress, this is only the Jewish members. And in Congress, the non-Jewish members, they fight for Israeli rights more than the Jewish members. More than the Jewish members. When will it be part of our culture to encourage some of our youth to go into politics? When? When will we realize the importance of sending some of our youth to Washington, to allow them to study political science, and to go into Washington and run for Congress, for the Senate? When is it that we'll realize this significance? And unfortunately, there are some narrow-minded Muslims. Till today, there are some narrow-minded Muslims that say, this is nonsense. For us to engage in politics in this country, this is nonsense. This is heresy. Why? Because this is supporting an oppressive regime. We shouldn't engage into politics. We shouldn't vote. We shouldn't encourage our youth to run for office in this country because this is supporting an oppressive regime. Let me ask you a question. Do you pay tax in this country or you don't pay tax? If you say you don't pay tax, you're either lying or you're about to go to jail. Congratulations. If you're paying tax, then you're already supporting an oppressive regime, in your opinion. If you're paying tax in this country, then in your opinion, you're already supporting an oppressive regime. So why not run into office and go into Congress and Senate and decide how your tax money is being spent? The money that we're giving into tax, spending on tax, let's at least be part of making the decision in how this tax money is being spent. Should it be sent to Israel or should it be spent on other means? Should it be given to the defense ministry or should it be spent on healthcare and education? We have a say in that. I find it ridiculous for those that pay hundreds of thousands in tax, but they're not willing to have a say in how this tax money should be spent, with the excuse that this is an oppressive regime. You have a say in it. This is a right that this country has given you. But we prefer that others come and they make the decisions. We pay the tax, but others make the decisions how this tax money is being spent. Does this make sense? Is this logical? Didn't Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam allow Salman al-Farisi to become the governor of Madain during the days of certain khulafa? Didn't Imam Musa ibn Ja'far allow Ali ibn Yaqtin to work as a minister to Harun al-Rashid? Aren't these our imams? Don't we learn from their lives? Don't we take lessons from their lives? Imam Musa ibn Ja'far could have easily told Ali ibn Yaqtin not to work for Harun al-Rashid because Harun al-Rashid is an oppressor. But on the contrary, we see him when Ali ibn Yaqtin asked Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, should I remain in my position or should I quit? He told him, no, remain. Because perhaps in this job of yours, in this position of yours, you can serve the mu'mineen, you can serve the believers. You can serve. This is the sort of foresight that our imams had. But we have some ignorant, narrow-minded followers of our own imams here in this country that say, no, don't get involved in politics. Don't vote. Don't have a say. Don't meet with politicians. Sit at home and let others make the decisions for you. صلوا على محمد وعلى محمد. Another very important point here in this country is media involvement. Media involvement. How many of our youth have gone into journalism? How many journalists do we have in the New York Times and in the Los Angeles Times and in the Washington Post and then in the Wall Street Journal and in Newsweek and in Time Magazine? How many? How many Muslim journalists do we have? We have a few names. We do have a few names. But these guys are very reluctant to defend Islam and Muslims and Islamic countries. They are more willing to defend other countries than to defend Islamic nations. They're Muslim by name. Read their articles. Read their articles in Newsweek and in other news magazines and newspapers. They're Muslim by name. What have they done for Islam and Muslims? Nothing. How many journalists do we have? None. Why? Because we don't encourage our youth to go into journalism. We as parents, we only encourage our youth to go into medicine or engineering or law. That's it. As if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has only created these three occupations. He hasn't created anything else. Well, what about journalism? What about media? What about those who are writing articles and influencing politicians? What about them? If you look at the major newspapers here in this country, you see that in most of these newspapers and news magazines, the top authors and writers are whom? Are Jewish. They're Jewish. And they're defending Israel. And they defend Jews in this country. And they're writing the most important and influential articles. While we sit at home, sit back, relax, and everyone else is developing. How many of us actually read newspapers and news magazines? Not many. Most Muslims don't even read. They don't read the newspaper. They don't read the New York Times or the Los Angeles Times. They don't see what journalists are writing about Islam and Muslims. We are not seeing what they are writing about our countries and about our rights. No. And if we do, we don't correspond with the authors. One journalist here in America, he said, if I write an article about Israel, if I support Israel in one of my articles, I will get thousands of emails by Jews in America thanking me. And if I write an article against Israel, I will get tens of thousands of emails. They'll fill my email box or my inbox with hate emails, discouraging me and denouncing me. But he says, when I write an article on Palestine or Iran, whether I support or I'm against, no one emails me. No one emails me from the Muslim community in America. If I support Palestine or Iran, no one thanks me. If I attack them, no one tells me anything. So why should I care? This is how it works in the media. Journalists cater to those who write to them. They cater to those who thank them. They cater to those who yell at them and rebuke them and denounce them. Not to those who are passive like you and me. We could care less if there's 10 articles tomorrow in the New York Times denouncing Islam, or there's 20 articles supporting Islam. We could care less. When we say a good article, we say Alhamdulillah. When we see a bad article, we say Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and that's it. There's no action. We don't take action. We're very passive. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. In Washington, D.C., do we have a lobby? Do we have an Islamic lobby? Any group, any political group that wants to be influential and have an influence in Washington on politicians has to have a lobby, has to have a strong lobby. Look at the Jewish lobby in Washington, the most powerful lobby in the world. Look at the oil lobby. Look at the gay lobby. Look at the gun rights lobby. They're all working. They're all lobbying. They're all making an effect, except Muslims. Muslims are too busy sitting at home watching TV, arguing whether azadari is halal or haram. Whether should we do azadari on Ashura or we shouldn't do azadari. This is Muslims. This is a sorry state of Muslims. While everyone else is working in Washington, D.C., they're lobbying, they're writing reports, they're meeting with politicians, they're influencing, they're collecting signatures. We're too busy doing other things. Yes, we do have a couple of organizations. We do have a couple of organizations in Washington. We have CARE, we have Impact. They're doing a wonderful job, but this is not enough. These are just a couple of drops in the ocean. While when you look at the Jewish lobby, there's over 60 or 70 organizations. And they're all working actively, 24-hour shifts. While we're only proud of 2 organizations in Washington fighting for our rights. Is this enough? This needs to change, my dear friends. In the next decade, this needs to change. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. How much academic involvement do we have in the United States of America? How many Muslim professors do we have at universities and colleges? Did you know that most professors at universities here in America that teach Islamic studies are not Muslim? In fact, many of them are Jewish. Most of the professors that teach Islamic studies here in America are Jewish. They're not Muslim. Or they're non-Muslim. They're not Jewish, but they're non-Muslim. Is this right? Which sort of image are they giving about Islam? What are they teaching about Islam? What are they saying about Islam? What are they saying about the Quran? What are they saying about the Prophet? What are they saying? We don't know. Because we are not the ones that are teaching Islam. We're giving room for others to come and teach about Islam. And they get to teach the image that they like, not the image that we like. We have people like Bernard Lewis at Princeton and Samuel Huntington at Harvard, who died a couple of years ago. These were the professors that are teaching about Islam and are giving the most negative image of Islam to college students at Harvard and at Princeton and at Yale and at Stanford. And these students, they're the future of America. They will be the ones who will run for office, and they will be the most prominent journalists in America. They are growing up with a negative image of Islam. And who should we thank? We should thank ourselves for being passive, for sitting at home and not doing anything. Our students, what are they doing at universities? How active are they at universities? Look at Jewish organizations, Jewish students at universities. They're the most active students. They have their organizations, their clubs, their meetings, their conferences, their seminars. And what are our students doing? What is the MSA doing, the Muslim Student Association? And it's the most well-known, Muslim organization on campuses and all across the nation. The MSA. What is the MSA doing for Islam? What is it doing during these days? I'll tell you what they're doing these days. They're promoting fasting on Ashura. This is what they're doing. They go around telling students that you need to fast on Ashura because Ashura is a Eid. It's a day of celebration. It's not a day of commemoration. This is our MSA. This is our Muslim Student Organization or Muslim Student Association. Instead of promoting Islam, instead of supporting Islam, instead of calling students to Islam, clearing the image of Islam, they tell students, come and fast on the day of Ashura. La ilaha illallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Here in America, we also need interfaith dialogue. How many of our Islamic centers have opened the doors of dialogue with Christians and Jews? Not many. A couple of centers that I know that actually have Muslim-Christian dialogue or Muslim-Jewish dialogue. This is a handful. But most of our Islamic centers, they're passive. They could care less. There might be a church or a synagogue in our neighborhood, but we haven't contacted them. There's no dialogue between the imam of this center and the rabbi of that church, or the imam of this center, the sayyid or the sheikh at this center, and the the rabbi or the priest of that synagogue or that church. Why? Why haven't we opened the door of dialogue? This is very important. Please remember, my dear brothers and sisters, that we came here to stay. Most of you did not come here to stay for 4 years, 5 years and leave. Maybe some of you did. But the vast majority came here to stay. Shouldn't we open the door of dialogue? Shouldn't Christians know about Islam? Shouldn't Jews know about Islam? Shouldn't we clear up the misunderstandings between us? Interfaith dialogue. And how about intrafaith dialogue? Within Islam. Within Islam. We don't have dialogue between Sunnis and Shia in this country. It's very minimal. Yes, there are some proponents of intrafaith dialogue. There are some Muslim scholars in this country from both sides, from both schools of thought, that promote Sunni Shia dialogue, that promote Sunni Shia unity, to work together, to cooperate with one another, or at least to agree on to disagree, to agree on disagreeing. They're limited, but the vast majority, no, we don't have a connection. Our mosques, our Shia mosques are disconnected with the Sunni mosques. We don't dialogue, we don't communicate, we don't have members of our mosques visit theirs, and members of their mosques come and visit ours. This is minimal. This has to change, my dear friends. In order for Islam to succeed in this country, Muslims have to cooperate. At least to learn to agree on disagreeing. You can practice. I'm not saying we should compromise our practices and beliefs. No. They practice what they believe in, and we practice what we believe in, but this doesn't mean that we cannot cooperate and work together. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Another very important point that I feel is necessary here in the United States of America and in the next decade, that we need a religious leader in this country. Here in America, we need a marja'. We need a marja' to come and cater to the needs of Muslim Americans. Someone who is qualified from a Hawza point of view. Someone who has his Hawza credentials and academic credentials, and at the same time can understand the Western mentality and can understand the American mentality. Someone who is fluent in English, someone who can represent Muslim Americans in the media, someone, if he comes on TV, on Fox News or CNN, someone who we could be proud of, someone who can represent American Muslims in politics as well. He will be the reference for all Muslim Americans. We need such a figure. We need such a religious leader in this country who will supervise the Islamic centers, who will build and finance more Islamic centers in this country, who can establish an Islamic seminary in this country. This is very much possible. Who can finance Islamic satellite channels in this country. This is very much possible. To print books in English regarding Islam, to print magazines regarding Islam, to upload websites regarding Islam. This individual can supervise. This religious leader can also supervise the division of khums here in the United States of America. I was always the proponent of this belief, that the khums in America should remain in America. It should be spent on the cause of Islam and Muslims in America. This religious leader can supervise this to make sure that khums is being divided equally, justly, without corruption on Islamic causes here in America. He could even spend and finance those who are poor, Muslims who are poor in this country. The youth that wish to get married and cannot afford it, he can finance and support. This is possible. And inshallah we can see this when the next decade here in America. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. My dear friends, America is the land of what? It's the land of opportunity. Anyone can come here and work and succeed. Here we are not restricted. Here we're not living in Saudi Arabia or Jordan or any of these backward, narrow-minded countries that don't allow their own citizens to practice freely. Believe me, this sort of session, this sort of majlis would not be held in some countries in the Middle East. But here we could hold such majlis. Here we could shout and cry and scream in the name of Imam Hussein. Here we could be critical of the policies of this government. Can you try doing this in Saudi Arabia or any of these countries? In Saudi Arabia, you cannot open a Husseiniya. You can't call it a Husseiniya. You could call it a masjid, but you cannot call it a Husseiniya. Did you know this? But here you could call it whatever you'd like and say whatever you'd like, as long as you're not dangerous and you don't threaten anyone. Say whatever you want. Isn't this a blessing for us as Muslims? This is a land of opportunity. Won't Imam Hussein on the Day of Judgment ask us that you had such opportunities, why didn't you make use of it? This is a land of opportunity, my dear friends. This land has a fertile soil for Islam. All we need to do is come and plant the seeds of Islam in this country. And after 10 years, we'll see the fruits. After 10 years, we'll see the trees of Islam. Here we have freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Let's make use of it. On the Day of Judgment, we'll be held accountable. وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ. We'll be asked. Let's give a good image of Islam, my dear friends, in this country. Let's show America that Islam is not one of its problems. Rather, it's one of its solutions. Islam is not one of the problems of America. It doesn't need to worry about Islam and Muslims as a problem. Rather, Islam is a solution to this country. Islam can offer solutions to the ethical and moral problems of this country. When it comes to crime rates, the economic crisis, the education crisis, the issues of alcohol, promiscuity, prostitution, you name it. All these moral and ethical problems, Islam can offer a solution. But it depends on us. How do we present Islam? In which manner? In which manner do we present Islam? In a violent manner, in a barbaric manner, in a backward manner, or in a beautiful manner? It all depends on us, my dear friends. It depends on how we promote and present Islam. Islam could be accepted. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, لو علم الناس محاسن كلامنا لاتبعونا. If people knew our genuine teachings, they would follow us. But are we presenting the genuine teachings of the Ahlul Bayt? Or not? We'll be held accountable. Imam Hussein alayhi salam will come on the Day of Judgment and he will say that I gave all I could for Islam. My job was to reform. I did my job. I gave everything that I could for Islam. I gave my brothers, I gave my children, and I gave my infant to Islam. What have you given for Islam? What have you done for Islam? Imam Hussein will hold us. He'll hold us accountable. He'll judge us. He'll say, I gave every single drop of my blood for this faith and for this religion so that you may enjoy and sit back and relax at home, sleep, eat, and drink, and enjoy yourself. What have you done for Islam? Imam Hussein alayhi salam gave everything. إن كان دين محمد لم يستقم إلا بقتلي يا سيوف خذيني. This is a poem. These are not the words of Imam Hussein, but they portray Imam Hussein. This is a poetry of Sheikh Muhsin Abu al-Hab from the city of Karbala. It's as if the Imam said, إن كان دين محمد لم يستقم. If the faith of Muhammad will not set straight, then let the swords take me. إن كان دين محمد لم يستقم إلا بقتلي يا سيوف خذيني. My father added a verse to this poem, to this very beautiful and long poem. He added this verse. أعطى الذي ملكت يداه إلهه حتى الجنين فداه كل جنين. He gave everything that his hand had to offer Allah, including his infant. May all infants be a sacrifice for that infant. أعطى الذي ملكت يداه إلهه حتى الجنين فداه كل جنين. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was ready to enter the battlefield. He gave everything. You know, when you go and visit someone, when you take a gift, when you take a bouquet of flowers, you usually put a beautiful flower on top. Am I right? All of the flowers are beautiful. They all smell beautiful. But you choose to put a small little flower on top of that bouquet. Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura gave a bouquet of flowers to Allah. He offered a bouquet of flowers from Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas to Ali al-Akbar to Al-Qasim, to his nephews, to his children, but he wanted to put a small little bouquet on this. He wanted to put a small little flower on this bouquet. And that was his infant, Ali al-Asghar. Abdullah, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam was about to enter the battlefield, he asked his sister Zainab. His sister Zainab came to him. She said, Akhi Aba Abdullah, your infant is dying. Your infant is dying from thirst. Take him. Perhaps these enemy soldiers might feel embarrassed and ashamed and will give him some water. Imam Hussein alayhi salam drops his shield and he drops his sword, meaning, I'm coming to you not to fight. I'm coming to you peacefully. I'm coming to you with this child. The Imam approaches the enemies, thinking that they might have a little bit of mercy in their hearts. He says, أيها الناس إن كنت أنا المذنب فما ذنب هذا الطفل. If I was guilty, if you see me as a criminal, what crime does this child have? Give some water to this child. The enemy soldiers, they gathered, they huddled. Some said, let's give the water. Others said, let's not give the water. Umar bin Sa'd, when he sees the enemy soldiers huddled, having a discussion whether they should give the water or not, Umar bin Sa'd looked to Harmala and he said, Ya Harmala, اقطع نزاع القوم أما ترى بياض نحر الطفل. Oh Harmala, cut the discussion. Do you not see the beautiful neck of the child? Harmala later on said, on the day of Ashura, I threw 3 arrows towards the camp of Imam Hussein. One of the arrows was a 3-headed poisonous arrow that landed in the chest of Imam Hussein. The second arrow was an arrow that landed in the eye of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. But the arrow that truly broke my heart was the arrow that I threw that pierced the neck of Abdullah al-Radi'. His father was carrying the child, waiting for water. The child could not even open his eyes. All of a sudden he felt an arrow pierce his neck. It came from one side and it came after the other. The child opened his eyes and smiled at his father, as if saying, my father, you brought me for water, but look what they've done to me. Imam Hussein put his hand under the neck of Abdullah al-Radi'. He grabbed a handful of blood from the neck of Abdullah and threw it to the sky, and he said, Allahumma la yakun, Allahumma la yakun hadha ahwan alayk min fasil. Imam Hussein alayhi salam heard a voice from the sky saying, Da'u ya Hussein fa inna lahu murdi'atan fil jannah. Ya Hussein, let him go. He will have someone to breastfeed him in paradise. Imam Hussein comes back to the tent. He comes back to the camp. His daughter Sukaina approaches. My dear father, did you quench the thirst of my brother Abdullah? Is there any water remaining? Because I'm thirsty. Imam Hussein takes the child out and he gives it to Sukaina and he says, Haki akhaki madbuha. Take your brother. They have slain your brother Abdullah. Imagine when Abdullah came back to the camp, when they brought him back to the tent and they brought him in front of his mother Rabah. يا بني يا بني يا بني يا بني يا عبد الله يا غالي يا غالي يا غالي يا نبي رباك سهرت الليالي. My dear son Abdullah, how many sleepless nights did I have to raise you? How many sleepless nights did I have with you? My son Abdullah, how can I see your cradle empty tonight? How can I remain without you, Abdullah? Historians say that Imam Hussein immediately took Abdullah and he went and he buried him. He went and he buried him that same hour behind the tent. He dug a very small grave and he buried Abdullah. We'll come back tomorrow to that grave, to the grave of Abdullah. It was time for Imam Hussein to enter the battle. He put on his turban, but we take off our turbans out of sympathy for the Imam. He grabbed his sword. He came to the camp of his sisters. يا زينب ويا أم كلثوم ويا سكين ويا رقية ويا رباب عليكن مني السلام فهذا آخر الاجتماع. My sisters Zainab and Ruqayya and Kulthum. My sisters Zainab and Kulthum. My daughters Sukaina and Ruqayya. This is our last farewell. I bid you farewell, and the next time that we will meet will be in heaven. They all came out grabbing the Imam. هذه تقبل يديه وأخرى تقبل رجليه. أين يا حمانا? One of them grabbed his hand. My master, do not leave. Another grabbed his feet. Our father, do not leave. Imam Hussein asks for his horse. من ذا يقدم لي جوادي. But Imam Hussein did not have companions to bring him his horse. The one who brought him his horse was his sister Zainab. She said, من ذا يقدم من أي أخت تقدم لأخيها جواد المني. Which wicked sister will bring the horse of death to her brother? The Imam rides his horse. He bids them farewell. This is the last time that they will meet. He's about to enter the battlefield. All of a sudden he hears a faint voice from behind him saying, Mahlan, Mahla, Ya ibn al-Zahra. Don't go so fast, oh son of Fatima. Wait one last time. He turns around and it's his sister Zainab. My dear brother, come down from your horse. I have a message to give to you. The Imam comes down from his horse. أخي أبا عبد الله اكشف لي عن صدرك وعن نحرك. My dear brother, expose your chest and expose your neck. I have to deliver a message to you. She came to him. He exposed his chest and his neck. She came and she embraced him on his chest. She embraced him on his neck. And then she turns towards Medina and she says, my dear mother, I delivered the message that you told me to do. Imam Hussein says, what message, my dear sister Zainab? She said, when our mother was about to die, she said, yo Zainab, a day will come in which you will see your brother Hussein, lonely, without a supporter, without any companions. Go to him, kiss him on his chest, kiss him on his neck, and tell him this is from your mother Fatima. خويا أنا بعيني لباري لك عيالك. أنا بروحي لسجت لك أطفالك. The Imam enters the battle. These are the last moments, my dear brothers and sisters. These are not the moments to remain quiet. Imam Hussein alayhi salam enters the battlefield. They surround him from every direction. Arrows begin pouring on him. Rocks begin pouring on him. A rock lands on the forehead of the Imam. The forehead of the Imam begins to bleed. The Imam sits on the ground. He comes down from his horse. Bismillah wa billah wa fi sabilillah wa ala millati rasulillah. And then Harmala shoots the Imam with a poisonous arrow that lands in the chest of the Imam. It pierces through his chest. The Imam bends down and he removes removes the arrow from his chest. Blood begins to gush from his chest. He holds the blood and he drains his beard with his blood. Yes, his horse begins to roam around him. The Janah roams around him. He stains his face with the blood of the Imam. The enemy soldiers are approaching the Imam. The Janah keeps on circling as if telling him, Ya Aba Abdullah, stand, the enemy soldiers are approaching. Shamr ibn Dhil Jawshan is approaching, stand Aba Abdullah. When Dhul Janah gives up, he puts his face in the blood of the Imam, and then he runs towards the camp of Imam Hossein. He runs to the camp of Sayyidah Zainab. The women come out of the tent, thinking that the horse has come with the night. They come out and they see that the horse is empty without the Imam. They come towards the battlefield. As Sayyidah Zainab comes and she stands at the hill and she sees that Shamr ibn Dhil Jawshan is approaching Aba Abdullah. أين المنادي وحسينا shout with me يا أبا عبد الله ومظلوما وشهيدا برمشام میرسد هر لحظه کربلا همه با هم کربلا یا کربلا کربلا یا کربلا louder کربلا یا کربلا بر مشامم میرسد هر لحظه بوی کربلا 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 در دلم ترسم به ما ند آرزو کربلا 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 شيعتي مهما شربتم ما بن فاذكروني كربلا كربلا أو سمعتم بقتيل أو شهيد فاندبوني كربلا كربلا از حرم تا قتلگه زینب صدا میزد حسین کربلا کربلا زینب صدا میزد حسین کربلا کربلا از حرم تا قتلگه زینب صدا میزد حسین کربلا کربلا زينب سدامي زاد حسين كربلاء فأنا السبط الذي من غير جور من قتلوني كربلاء كربلاء وبجرد الخيل بعد القتل عمدا سحقوني كربلاء كربلاء ليتكم في يوم عاشوراء جميعا تنظروني كربلاء كربلاء كيف أستسقي لطفلي فأبوا أن يرحموني